Hello, people. This is my explanation on how I make my fandubs. How do I make my videos and edit them the way I do? I tried explaining it before, but unfortunately, I had some technical difficulties, so not all the recording was there. So, anyhow, long story short, I basically taught myself how to do this. Some things I picked up from friends and from people I met online, but for the most part, the editing is what I taught myself. So, to start things out, as you can see in this video, all right, in this folder, as you can see, this is the folder. I name it as I want to name it. This is reincarnated as a slime fandub that I created. I have my folder for Audacity, and then I have my folder for the video itself. All right, I take the video, I put it into an audio extractor. This one is called Pazira Audio Extractor, and then I click Convert. What it's doing is it's extracting the audio in whatever format you need. It could be WAV or or MP3. I usually click something called Output Directory, so it saves the audio file to the same exact folder as my video file. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I need the original audio for the video or the scene that I'm picking, and therefore I'm going to extract the audio from that. And then I'm going to try to remove the original vocals so I can add my own. What I'm doing here, maybe you don't understand what's happening. I'm using an older version of Audacity, which is what I'm more familiar with in extracting audio. The newer version has various steps. So anyhow, I put the audio file in Audacity. I go to this arrow, click on Split Stereo Track. Then I click on the bottom track, go to Effect, Invert. What's happening when it's inverting is that it is basically flipping the audio around, and in a way, it's trying to make way for you to remove the audio that's there. All right. And then after inverting, you click on the arrow for each track and click on Mono. Then you go to File, Export as Wave, click OK, and then put it wherever you want, but it's better to be in the same folder. I usually call it extracted.wave or whatever name I want, but I'm not doing it since I already did that before. Okay, now, next step, I take the extracted file and I take the video. I go to Adobe Premiere Pro, which is my video editor that I'm using, and I put the files in the program. Okay, but yeah, in this case, I'm making a new project to show you what happens if you're using Adobe Premiere Pro. Okay, then I browse, I choose the folder that I want, which is this one, the reincarnated as a slime, and then I click OK. So yeah, I'm just opening the folder since I already have it ready. But you create a new project, you choose the folder, now I have a new sequence. This sequence, I'm going to take the video and the audio file, and I'm going to drag them into my editor. So yes, we select them both, drag them, Adobe Premiere Pro opens, we put them in it, and then we drag the video file first. It asks if you want to change sequence settings. If you don't know what that is, that's basically asking you about the resolution. Do you want the correct resolution for your video editing software or not? And then after that, you take your audio file. Take the audio file, put it in Adobe Premiere Pro as well. And what's happening is you have different levels, or you could call them channels perhaps. There's the audio 1, the audio 2, audio 3, and then there's video 1, etc. And that's where you edit your data. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm adding video and audio tracks. I make video track 0 because I don't want another video track. I'm not adding another video on video. I'm just adding audio on audio. I know I'm being a little quick with the video editing itself because this is like just legit basics of Adobe Premiere Pro, meaning you'll have to practice more or watch tutorials. But as I said, there are different channels. You have usually your video track with its own audio, which is the original video itself, which is the blue one, as you can see. And then you have the audio I added, audio 1, which is nothing to do with the main scene or video you're editing. So that's the extracted audio that I extracted the vocals from. Keep in mind, when I extract the vocals, some people will tell me the method I used, I could still hear something. It doesn't sound like the audio itself. It sounds like somebody's drowning or like it's underwater. It sounds weird. yeah, it doesn't exactly remove the vocals, which is the actual truth behind this. It pushes it down and keeps the background music. But it's not as brilliant as it sounds either. It's still, sometimes the background music doesn't sound that good. Sometimes certain music is removed and other music is left out, is left there, I mean. And sometimes not all audio is removed completely, or it doesn't sound that it's like it's pushed down enough for you to add your own audio. But most of the time, 80 or 90% of the time, I tend to remove my audio and I push down the audio and add my own and make it a little loud, not too loud, a little loud so it covers over the original audio so it sounds like it doesn't even exist. Now, continuing this, I have 0 video tracks and I have an audio track. 3 audio tracks. Why do I have 3? Well, it's going to help me in editing because I record, and the way I line up the audio on top of each other is really going to help. Yeah, now I'm zooming out and I'm looking for the scene I want to edit from this episode of anime from that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you want to know which episode, this is the OVA episode 1. Now here I'm using something called the razor tool, or you could call it the cut tool, but it's called the razor tool. You could select it from the left menu in the middle here. As you can see, it's selected. I usually just click the shortcut C, and if I want to go back to the mouse, I click the shortcut V. Now, yes, I go to the very beginning, and I am playing my scene. As you can see, it's playing out. This guy said, "Excuse me." What's happening here is that I go to the scene and the character I want. This is the character I want, this guy who is blonde. I listen to what he's saying, the first word he says, and then I stop. And then I go back a bit.
Excuse me. His Majesty would like an audience.
And then I stop again. And then what I'm doing at the bottom, this bar I keep dragging, is zooming in and zooming out so it's easier to be more precise with the audio I'm editing. So I'm playing again and I try to get to the point before the guy's saying excuse me. So before he says excuse me, he's like, he's still opening his mouth. I want to stop at that point right before he talks and then cut using the razor tool. And sometimes if I can't really specify, to be even more specific, I could look at his lip flaps and right when he's about to open his mouth, that's where I cut. So it's 2 indicators that will help you to better be precise. What is the importance of cutting here? Why am I cutting in the video, or it's audio 1 and video 1 and all that? Well, that's to add my own audio, which is my recording, and therefore to be as precise as possible with the lip sync. Believe me, when you're dubbing, because this is my fan dub, but some processes are similar to this in actual professional dubs where they try to be as precise as possible. They call this ADR, automated dialogue replacement. So this is a form of ADR, but this is something I do for fun and for practice, and it keeps me going even though I'm working professionally as a voice actor, but I still do this. Okay, so what I do, I'm not going to take all of his dialogue. Let's say he's talking for like 2 minutes straight. I'm not going to listen to the whole thing and then stop and cut there. No, I take piece by piece according to as much dialogue my short-term memory can take, and then I cut there, and then I add the audio. I could be recording in real time, meaning I play this in the video editor and then I record and then put it in, but I felt like it wasn't really that practical. So I just play the video outside in any media player, record everything, and then I start editing and adding the dialogue in. And then if anything is wrong, I repeat the recording and put it in. And if you want to know how I record, I use Audacity, as you noticed, and my microphone, it is the CM25 mic that is with the Focusrite 2i2 bundle. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Okay, now I'm opening my Audacity file with my recordings. The first one said, "Excuse me, His Majesty would like an audience with you."
Excuse me, His Majesty would like an audience with you.
This really explains, this is really the beginning, and I already have it highlighted and ready, the start of what I am using. So this line is what I need. Everything else after it, those are the other lines that I'm going to be using. So let's take this one. File, export selected audio. Why am I using selected audio and not just audio? Because if audio, it's going to select the entire file and make it one MP3 or one WAV file and add it into my video. I don't want to do that. Selected audio, and based on how specific you are in highlighting as well, even that is a skill. Like, I used to not be very good at this. I used to select the audio file and export selected audio, but then I don't highlight it very well. But now I'm used to how a sound wave kind of looks in proportion to the sound that is made. Like when he says, excuse me, he would like an audience with you. The word excuse me, if you look at the beginning of what's highlighted, it is a very small part. So this would be the word excuse me. Would like an audience with you is longer, so it would definitely be the second part. And obviously, this is the very beginning of my recording, the very beginning of this entire fandub or voiceover, so it's at the very beginning. So yeah, and you would get used to how things look with the peaking and the upside down and the crests and the troughs of a wave. Maybe you don't know what I'm talking about, but if you look at this, all of this is what a sound wave looks like in an audio editing software, or at least this software, okay? Has a top part and a bottom part. This should be okay, relatively okay at how a waveform should look, but if any of them, they take up a lot of space, like some of them could be really big and take up space at the top and the bottom, it's something called peaking. That's a completely different story I could get into later, but try to avoid peaking, okay? Now we take the file, call it whatever we want. I called it audience, and I called it audience 2 because I already have one called audience. This is just normal file naming. You don't want something to overlap with the other. And yeah, so you save it, and then you drag it into Adobe Premiere Pro. Then you drag it back. Yeah, I dragged it into the source area of the projects. Then I dragged it into the timeline. Timeline is the place where you're editing. It's like your workshop. And then,
Excuse me.
okay, as you see what happened here, I put it under the approximate area of where the dialogue is. That's why I made a cut, so I know where to start with my audio file. I pressed play, and it seems like they're proportionate, but I still want to be sure. So,
Excuse me. His Majesty would like an audience with you.
Would you please accompany me?
so it seems like it's okay. You could hear them both at the same time talking, but then, get this, if I'm playing both of them and I want to relatively hear both of them at the same time, how can I guarantee that? Well, that's why if you look at the top left, there's something called the audio mixer. The audio mixer shows you exactly what the level of audio is for each level or each channel, okay, in your timeline. You have audio 1, audio 2, video 1. So I try to make them very close. Since we're playing my audio, that is in audio 3. And I'm playing the original audio, which is mainly audio 1 and audio 2. Will audio 2 interfere playing both at the same time with 1? Most of the time, no, but sometimes audio 2 is super loud, so I have to mute it and play audio 1 only, and along with audio 3. If you don't know what I'm talking about, while I'm explaining, look at the number of each audio 1, 2, and 3, and what's next to it, and you will better understand what I mean. Audio 1 is the audio for the main video. Audio 2 is the extracted audio that supposedly has no vocals and only background music. And audio 3 is my recording. So here I played it. He said, excuse me, Your Majesty would like an audience with you. And I tried to get it as in sync as possible. What helps to get it in sync, as I said, is the lip flaps, looking at the lip flaps of the character, listening to when he or she starts talking. He says, excuse me, so I get to the part where he's like, he's still saying, excuse me. And now another thing is where you drag and position that audio exactly as best as possible. One more thing, but let me just play this.
Would you please accompany me? Would you please accompany me? Would you please accompany me?
He said one more thing, would you please accompany me? Let's add this as well. Now, what do? We need to go and drag the audio file from Audacity and make it export selected audio, name it whatever we want, and then take it in here and put it in this exact location. Something else that I wanted to say. It's not just about editing skills and about listening skills. It is also about another listening skill, is that when you're listening to dialogue, now this is actually closer to the professional world, something is going to be played in front of you. Sometimes if I hear voice actors, if they have a scene from an anime that could be in Japanese as a reference, sometimes they have no reference. But mostly dubbing, I believe. I have never dubbed an anime before. I never got an anime dubbing job in real life, but I got other jobs. Anyhow, an anime dubbing job, because it's dubbing, it's not originally created in the US, so it comes from Japan, it comes from Korea, it comes from China, wherever it comes from, but mostly Japan. They have an original scene. What they're looking at as reference is the timing of the lip flaps of the character in order to add the audio at that specific time. So they listen and try to keep in mind, okay, this character was saying, "Excuse me, my leader wants an audience with you. This is for how long?" "Excuse me, he would like an audience with you." So let's say this is like 5 seconds. Are you counting in your head? I don't do that, but it's a feel of how long it is, and I try to keep that feel in my short-term memory and then say it and try keeping that same feel of timing. Some people choose to act it in their own way. I mean, this is in fan dubbing at least. Act it in their own way and make it with the correct timing. Or they could try to get the same exact mannerism, the same exact tone, and same way as it's pronounced or said in the fan dub with the timing, which is what I used to do. But now I don't always do that since I started to try to improve my acting. I try to have my own approach on things. So I usually tend to say it in my own way, or if it's too fake or it's not good, or it sways too far from what the character is or what I'm trying to do with the character, then I just use what's there. But again, in these fan dubs, my goal is not necessarily to copy the character. Like, who voices this character in this anime? Patrick Seitz. I can't do Patrick Seitz. Not in a million years. Am I saying because some actors are incredible and I'll never reach those heights? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying every actor and every person has their own nature of their voice. They have their own kind of way of doing things. So let's play this again.
Would you please accompany? Would you please accompany me?
Of course.
As you can see here, I'm playing the same thing twice. I usually have more than one take at the ready, 2 takes, 3 takes, sometimes 5 takes. So I listen to both right after listening to the original clip and see how suitable it is, which one is closer to fitting in that scene with that mannerism, with that tone, etc. It's hard to just explain it. You have to listen and try and add it to the scene and listen to it with the image and the performance, and you will over time have a better feel to what's suitable and what's not. So I picked this one, export selected audio, take it outside, call it whatever I want to call it, and then I'm going to edit. Okay, let's take it and put it in the exact location as I mentioned. Now, look at this. I added it to the second level. I added it to audio 4. Why did I do that? Because when you look at them, they're on top of each other, right? Sometimes when the second part of the dialogue starts or the next line starts, it's not really gonna coincide with the previous clip. Like you can see the one that's highlighted in audio 3, the one after it sometimes has to start a little bit before. So if you drag it right onto it, if it's on audio 3, it could overwrite it. So you're going to be erasing part of the previous line. I don't want lines to erase one another, so that's why I create more than one level or more than one channel. Audio 4, audio 3. So they're right after each other, but not affecting each other at all. So they're played at the same time. And that's how you add more than one audio at the same time. If you want 2 people talking at the same time, then this is how you do it. They're on top of each other. This is very similar to somebody who knows how to use Photoshop. Photoshop is with images. Basically, what is Photoshop? It's adding picture over picture over picture and effects onto your picture and make it look like something completely different. But this is audio on audio and video on video. It's basically like you're building a sandcastle and you're putting stuff on top of each other, or making a cake. You have the cake, you add the toppings, you add the vanilla, you add things on top of each other. But you don't just throw them onto each other and say, "Oh, I have a cake." Exactly like this. You throw them onto each other very wisely and carefully and meticulously in order to know what you want to make. Now, this, I'm listening, would you please accompany me? Yeah, it started before my dialogue actually started. My dialogue itself that I just added, so that's why I pulled it back a bit, as you can see. Now let's just watch. Then I cut, yes. Then I cut right after he says that. Why did I do that? And I didn't cut a little bit after, because if you noticed, I pressed play and the girl started talking. That's in the scene now. Because I don't want to cancel out her dialogue. I am cutting also because you're going to see what I'm going to do now. Audio 1 has a blue area. That is the video, right? It is also the audio. There is video 1 and there's audio 1, which is the audio for the video. I'm going to drag that part of the video that's been cut out and drag it onto audio 2 to overwrite it, but not all of audio 2. Only the background sounds I want to keep and the part where the original characters talk, but not the part with my voice. Then you're like, what's going to be left? Only your voice? Then it's just going to be blank in the background. No, that's why I extracted audio in the first place and added audio 2. So audio 2 with my voice should sound kind of close to the original. Sometimes it sounds great depending on how it works out, and sometimes it's not that great. And sometimes this extraction process doesn't work at all, and I have to add my own background music on top of all this or on its own. And sometimes what's even better is if I have someone else in the same scene and we add our own background music and our own sound effects and our own voices, and we don't have to go through most of this hassle, which is way easier. Now, as I said, I'm dragging and dropping. I overwrote it and I press play. And
Come in.
the original sound. See, she said, come in. That's her
Excuse
talking.
me.
And I also left the background sound because when he opened the door, you could hear the door opening. If I don't leave the background sound, I will not hear the door opening. It'll just sound that weird underwater sound that you guys probably heard when you did the extract audio method. So I'm keeping that, and then I start with my dialogue.
Excuse me. His Majesty would
So
like
I
an
press play.
audience.
Now, what I'm doing is I drag back to the beginning, and I want to see if it's effective. I muted audio 1. Audio 1 is where you have the original audio for the video, and I'm going to press play with audio 2 and 3 and 4 playing. Audio 2, as we said, is what we're playing now with the background sound that's extracted, and now it has the original background sound in that section, and audio 3 and 4 is my recording positioned properly with hopefully the correct volume. That's why I play the scene over and over as well, to get the correct volume levels in order to not make my sound too much higher than the background sound or vice versa. But let me tell you this, I started doing this recently, where don't just play it through your headphones. Play it without headphones on your computer so you see how it sounds that way as well in order to make better adjustments with the audio. Because I've had this issue before where sometimes the audio is not that well because it sounds different through a different headphone or through a different computer or so on.
Would you please accompany me?
So yeah, there you go. I play without
Accompany me?
extraction. See?
Of
That's what I
course.
was talking about. I played it without dragging and dropping, and I can't hear the door. So let's just go back to what we did before, and let's press play. Okay, now, yeah. Then, just to demonstrate how it's going to continue, let's listen to her dialogue, and then we stop there, or a little bit after it. Okay, now what I heard, I went a little after her dialogue, because I want to make sure if there's more dialogue from other characters, but I heard my character talking again. So I cut right before my character, I leave her character's voice, and then I drag and drop, as I did before, and then I go and rinse and repeat the same steps for my dialogue. So let's just check it out. We cut, drag and drop, and then
Would you please accompany me?
Of course.
that's in order to hear everything.
You were
And then the character starts talking again. Now let's hear the whole thing without audio 1. Well, if we play it or not, it's going to be the same thing. Hearing the whole thing without audio 1, you're just going to hear it properly, and you did the correct editing. Now I need to add my own title, where I add my watermark, Hisham Voiceovers, which is basically my channel, my Instagram name, my YouTube name, and my Twitter name, relatively speaking. And I add it by going to T for title or title, and title, new title, default still, click OK. And then I add my watermark. click on whichever font I want. I type in voiceovers. I play around with the font. I play around with the size. I add it. And then after that, we want to finish our project. So file, and then file, export media, or Control M. Then we choose the resolution we want. It's usually, I choose H.264, 720p if I want it HD, or 480p if I just want it to be okay for Instagram. But sometimes I choose 720p if the scene is not that long. And then I export it to wherever I want. And then I just export. And then we're done. That's basically how I do my fan dubs. This is a little watered down, but this is the detail of what it is. You got to make sure you know how to listen to the scene, you know how to listen to your audio, you know how to position your audio, you know how to edit. So there's video editing, there's audio editing, and there's things like that. That's why some people would be surprised. Why do you take so long with one scene? Or some people might think it's easy, like, oh, you could make a scene every day or every 2 days? Wow, it must be super easy. Not as easy as you think, and not as hard as you think either, because you come up with it, you learn how to do it, and then it takes time. But imagine people, they're recording for an entire 20-minute episode, and you don't know how many minutes of dialogue they have. Let's say they have 10 minutes of dialogue. How long would it take them to do that? That's why it's tougher these days when voice actors come and record on their own at home and edit on their own and do everything and send it to the audio engineer, and then it's a back and forth process until it's done and to sound as professional as possible in the same level as it does when they go to a studio and they're with the actual engineer in the same room and so on. So it's much tougher these days for voice actors everywhere with COVID-19. Even without COVID-19, it's a challenge on its own, of course, for you to be able to master the timing, for you to hear the correct timing for when you start speaking and when you stop. But again, if you're dubbing for anime, there's usually like a beeping sound. It's like beep, beep, beep. And then on the third beep, you start recording. It's for every line. And that's usually how it works, okay? So it's an easier process in some regards. In other regards, it just takes practice. It takes experience. It takes experience in how to interpret dialogue correctly. And the way anime is dubbed, of course, is not exactly the same as gaming, because gaming, it's got an original character and you're casted for this character. Anime, it's already there. Unless if it's an animated show being made in that country, whatever country you're from, and you're being added to it. So still, you would have to get the correct timing that is required of you, even if you're not dubbing over someone else. So dubbing is a process that's not just talking and that's it. Because some people, they think, oh, I'm just going to say this and it's going to come out perfect. No, you still need to put in emotion. First, what I used to do, I used to try to just copy the emotion that I hear. Or copy, yes, in a way, or try to copy the sound of what is being said and make it sound similar to what I'm hearing. But then I found that it's not enough, because these actors are not just saying things with the correct intonation and that's it. No, actors are acting. You're a voice actor. You perform. You try to make something as believable as possible, where you are living it in order for the people that are hearing it would believe it. So it is a process that takes practice, that takes experience, it takes dedication. So if you're considering any kind of voiceover, go for it, but believe me, you have to be patient, you have to be persistent, you have to be diligent. It is not about impressions, it is not about only character work, it is a lot more than that, and voiceover is a huge field, and it is a tough field, believe me. As much as people say it's cutthroat and people really fight for competing in it, it's not necessarily always like that. I used to assume, oh my god, it's super competitive, I'm not going to make it easily, and people are going to like stomp on me or step on me, figuratively speaking. But no, that's not what I found at all. Dealing with a lot of voice actors that have succeeded over the years, or are still starting, as I said before, or are still learning just like me, most of them, if not maybe all of the ones I've met, are super modest, are super down to earth, and super helpful. So if you can help someone or pay it forward after someone helps you, just do it. Because believe me, voiceover is a beautiful community and you will grow to love it. So I hope this helped you. I hope this benefited you. And this is something I do as my own fuel to continue voiceover, and for fun and as practice. Believe me, it gave me a lot of the technicalities that I need for voiceover. Even though this is fan-made stuff, but still. Thank you, and good luck, guys.